What's up, everybody? Welcome to a brand new spanking episode of Granny's Peach Tea. Granny's Peach Tea. It's a Friday night, so give me a break here. Not on our usual night, as you probably may have noticed. It is a Friday night. We had some stuff going on during the week, but we're still here. We're not going to skip another week. You also, if you're watching, you might also notice that Tony is not with us tonight, but me and Jason are going to hold it down. Jason, what's up? How's it going, man?
Going well, man. Going good. I'm excited to talk about tonight's Falcon Winter Soldier. I'm excited to get into it all, as always.
Yeah, man, and we're gonna be doing things a little bit differently. I mean, we don't have a movie this week. We are not talking about Zack Snyder's Justice League again. We have moved on behind us. Okay,
although we did.
What's up?
We did talk about making this a 4-part series, just like, each chapter, like the Snyder Cut. But we figured it might be beating a dead horse at this point.
Exactly. I mean, we did the Pop Culture Pros Justice League edition, which came out of nowhere and just completely went there. And we gave it even more time with 4 of us. We've given it enough. So we're sorry if you tuned in to hear us talk about Zack Snyder's Justice League again. We've moved on. We're done with the DCU for a while, guys. So some of you might be super hyped about that. Yeah, exactly. And I can tell you when. We're done with it until August, when we get the Suicide Squad. Yeah. So
yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, exactly. That should be super. Oh man, I'm pretty hyped up about that. We got our PCP boss jumping in. What's up, Farachi? What's going on? Happy Friday. Yeah, so we're jumping into it. So if we're going to be talking about, I'm going to tell you right now, first, right off the bat, we are talking about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier episode 4, which dropped today. This is the first time we're doing it on the night that the episode drops. So spoiler warning now. There will be spoiler warning later. There will be spoiler warning every time. We don't want anyone getting pissed off because we spoiled the damn show for them. If you didn't watch it, go back and watch it and come back and check us out another time. But we're dying to get into it. But before we do get into Falcon and Winter Soldier, we're going to jump into some CW verse action. And we're going to kick it off with The Flash, Season 7, Episode 6. I thought it was an interesting episode. It was one when they Chester and Cisco ended up going back to the 90s, essentially. And they said that they were in 1998, but they seemed like at times they were dressed for like 1991 or 2. I mean, we were teenagers during the 90s. We were alive during this pretty clearly, so you can kind of see that.
Yeah. Although, Eddie, tell me how nice it was to see a live Blockbuster out in the wild. Didn't that bring you back?
That was so awesome, man. It brought me back to like Friday nights, renting video games and stuff, and then like whatever movie it is and getting pissed off because the movie wasn't there and the box was there and then, like all this stuff. Super nostalgic. But yeah, I overall though, it was like a pretty Barry Allen-less episode. I mean, he literally shows up in like the last 10 minutes. So the episode really focuses on, we get to learn a lot about Chester, which we really haven't known too much about yet, honestly. So they really dig into him. He meets his father. They have like a touching moment where he gets to find out that his father would do everything for him and stuff. And that was a lot of his motivation, and he wanted to make him proud and stuff like that. So that was some really cool stuff. Seeing them in the 90s and playing around with that. And they were facing off against a guy who was kind of like a time god, per se. Like he was one of the... Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, they talked about, and I know this is also this must be referenced in the season I haven't watched yet, but they're talking about like these creatures who are kind of like gods. Like that's that red-haired woman who's kicking around. She's like part of that. And it looked to me like they were setting up like this guy as the big bad, or at least a smaller big bad of the season, because he has this like. And I thought this was cool. And I want to say I really liked this episode. I thought this episode was super fun. But yeah, this villain has this moment where they convince him he could be more, trying to convince him, hey, you could be more than just this villain trapping everyone in this Back to the Future Groundhog Day scenario. And he went, yeah, I could destroy the world. And he goes off and he's like, I'm going to become a better supervillain, which was like such a beautiful moment.
Yeah, he's like, well, we didn't really intend to set out to do that, but I guess we did. And they kind of created a whole nother problem. Some of the Easter eggs I caught during the episode were pretty cool. Like in the opening scene, we get that since they're in the 90s, that nod to Jurassic Park, where I think the woman's drinking like the coffee or something, and you see the water shaking, and then you see a freaking dinosaur right in front of her because time was like all out of whack and everything. So we get where that was going. And Cisco wearing the baseball cap that like Barney McFly wore in Back to the Future 2 was really clever because I didn't catch it in 2 seconds, but once I took a good look at it, I'm like, yeah, that's it. I get it. Nice job. Well done. Well done. And Chester, when he interacts with his father, because as we've seen in a lot of stuff like Avengers Endgame and even in Back to the Future itself, when people run into their parents, they got to come up with some other name. And Chester refers to himself as John Boyega, which I think was pretty great.
That was awesome.
Yeah. Awesome. Who went ahead and played Finn in the sequel trilogy of Star Wars. So that was pretty cool. Those are the like brief Easter eggs that I had caught in. But yeah, so the woman that you had referenced with the red hair, that is Barry's. That's the embodiment of the Speed Force. So that's what that is. So they have the Speed Force. They have man, I forgot what they were calling that, the huge like monster that showed up like that took out Abracadabra. But yeah, that was another one. So and then Psych was another one. So they're different, like kind of like God type creatures. But the Speed Force took the like appearance, the embodiment of like Barry's mother. So that's been something that
right.
Like,
which
that
that's part of this episode.
Yeah, exactly. And they also dive in, and Iris explains the whole blanket, and that the blanket reminds Barry of his mother, and it keeps him safe and everything. And then you can see like the Speed Force itself starts to consider like, wow, all right, this is like a lot of human stuff that maybe I didn't really take into account, and was thinking maybe I should change my form and just be what I am. And it's maybe that it's messing with Barry because Barry doesn't talk about his mother a lot. So there was a lot of like character moments that I thought were pretty good about this episode.
Yeah, I agree. It was a really good character episode, and so as I said, I'm rewatching The Flash. I still haven't gotten to where Chester comes in or who Chester is. So this is the first time I actually got some character stuff with him, and I gotta say, I really enjoyed what they did with him. I thought that stuff with his dad, I thought they set it up really well, where he kind of does this thing where he's like, no, that man's not gonna help me. All he ever wanted to do is work. He was killed on his way going to work, and he sets us up. And then I thought that setup really made that moment where his father, telling him, thinking, not realizing it's his son, of course, telling him that everything he does is for his son, and he gets that different perspective of his dad and realizes that he's been looking at it the whole wrong way. That made me really, really warm up to the character of Chester, and I'm really excited to finally get to where he comes in and get to see like what his story is in the previous season.
Yeah, no, me too. Because honestly, up until now, I really didn't care too much about Chester at all. But now that we've got to know him a little bit more and we got some backstory to the guy, like, I'm more invested now. I'm in, and like, it was. All of us have had moments with our parents and things like that, and like you can kind of identify with them now. And I thought that was pretty cool that they did that. They actually gave like these what do you want to say, maybe second tier characters push them to the forefront, with Barry kind of like sidelined for most of the episode.
Yeah, it was a good choice. And by the way, Iris looks dope in a fro. Like when she got all like 70s out, she looked so cool.
By the way,
so Joe's get up as well was great.
Yeah, so that's one part of the episode though I didn't fully get. Like, so the whole thing with that, like, did they give it a name? I was calling it the Green Hex because that's what it reminded me of, the Hex from WandaVision. That was kind of just like going there, and then it just changed people's clothes. They didn't act differently or anything. So I was like, is this like the fashion police thing that's just going?
I'm not 100% sure what they were, like what it did. You're right. It just kind of changed their clothes. They didn't act differently. It didn't set them in a different time or anything. Honestly, it was probably like, and I've seen The Flash do this, and it's fine. The Flash will do, because The Flash is more of a fun show, right? Flash isn't getting dark. It's not getting too complex on you. And it was probably just a thing. Wouldn't it be funny if we got these guys in these character, these these timepiece costumes? And because we got Killer Frost as the what was she dressed? She was dressed as like the 70s. It was all 70s, right? What was her thing?
Well, her thing was,
and then like she winds up
70s,
Yeah, and she winds up adopting the style, so it might have just been a fun way to get them in different costumes. And from the Flash, I'm fine with that. Like, I'm sure they'll do more stuff. Like, if they bring this guy back, which they should, it would be stupid not to. I'm sure they'll flesh out more what the hell was going on with the Green Hex.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's what we'll just call it on here. We'll call it the Green Hex because it really did remind me of the Hex in WandaVision. So. All right, well, look forward to seeing what's going to happen next week with The Flash, but we can go ahead and jump into, because we only had 2 CW shows this week. Pretty
it was light. A light one. I was like, when I was doing my watch, I was like, all right, what do I got? I was like, oh, no Batwoman. Okay, that's cool. Oh, no Black Lightning. All right, that's kind of, I was like, oh, wow, just these 2. Oh, okay, it's a light week for CW.
Yeah, it was just, it was kind of odd. Yeah, and that's why I was telling you, I was procrastinating with some of it. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna do my rewatch. Because I got other stuff, and I'm like, there is no other. I'm watching sports every day and stuff like that. But during the daytime, I'm gonna sneak in a show or something like that. And I kept procrastinating about it, but whatever. Well, actually, we got a question in here. Where's Tony? Tony had something come up, so he had a little bit of emergency. So he's dealing with that. But me and Jason are here, so we are tonight's entertainment. We are here to hook you guys up, man, with all the geeky goodness talk we got. And
I understand it is empty without Tony, and Tony's super cool pop cave that he comes from. But you'll just have to make do with us tonight.
Yeah, you can see some of my pops over to the side. Sorry, they're out of the shot. So Tony's got that. I try to compete with him a little bit.
I just got
there. We go. Nice.
Slender's Devil.
Nice. I like that one. I like that. So Supergirl, episode 6. Season 6, episode 2. An episode that I kind of my overall feelings were that it's just them trying to get Kara out of the Phantom Zone. Spoiler warning, they don't. And she meets her father. And Lex Luthor is on trial and chooses not to have a lawyer and defends himself. By the way, how great was that?
Essentially rich guys his way out of this trial by going, wait, I couldn't have done this. I'm rich and women lie. And they go, oh, Lex is right. He's rich and women lie. Let him go.
Exactly. And I was like, but the way he was going about it, though, was pretty badass at first. Because I agree. I had made a note, right? The first thing that they says, Lex's defense, by the way, when they're like, oh, yeah, Tessmacher's going to go ahead and say X, Y, and Z. And he's just like, no, she won't. That's it. That is it. That's all he said. And they cut away from that. And I was like, that is awesome. I couldn't love... every week I'm on here talking about John Cryer's Lex Luthor. And this episode, man, he was front and center, just showing it off again, man. It's just a joy to watch John Cryer do this, man. It really is.
He's really good. He's really menacing. He's really manic at times. Watching him be his own defense attorney was really entertaining because he has these moments of cockiness, but he has moments where he obviously loses it, and you go, Lex is a maniac. When he's going on it with his sister, Oh, and you think that's going to turn the tide. Everyone's sort of giving that satisfied, aha, this is it. That Lex is a maniac. But John Cryer, man, I never realized. See, I don't know him from much. I know him from 2.5 Men, where he just, he was the butt of every joke. And I know him from his stuff in the 80s, as Ducky and Superman 4. But to see him actually get to, use some chops and some range and have some fun with this role and really just shoot for the stars. I'm really happy they gave him this opportunity and brought him on this show.
Yeah, I've absolutely loved it. I can't sing his praises enough. Every single week, every episode I get to see him, it is absolutely spectacular. He just runs with it. So after seeing this episode, though, do you still, because I remember last time we talked about this, you were not with seeing him on Superman and Lois. Do you still feel that way?
No, I could see him doing it now because, again, I had seen him probably at the character's most cartooniest last week, or this first episode of the season, and he grounds it in this one. It's still a bit cartoony, but you know, in certain times. But that's this show. That's what I'm liking about this show, is that it is kind of cartoony in ways. It's just, you know, good old fun with the comic book property. But seeing what he did in this particular episode, I totally see him reining it in enough to match the tone of the Superman and Lois, because that's all it is. The two shows are tonally different.
Yeah, completely.
But yeah, I completely see him as Lex Luthor on it now.
And that's what when I was watching it, I thought about this, though. I was like, I got to ask Jason now, because he showed to be evil, and really evil in some moments right there. And like you were mentioning, like, he's a maniac. And that's why I'm like, I wonder if this is going to like reel Jason in to see what I've seen in this guy, and like want him, dying for him to face off against, you know, we actually get to see it on screen, at least, for him to face off against, you know, CW Superman.
Yeah, I'd love to see that, him make an appearance on that show, because again, now I see that he could rein it in and he could match the tone. I'm sure of it. And yeah, I mean, he's a great Lex Luthor.
So do you agree he's like is he also your favorite live action one now? Or are you partial to Hackman or something?
No, I was gonna say yes, because like I think it's slim pickings when it comes to Lexes, to be honest.
True.
Like, you know, Gene Hackman is classic, but even as a kid, I never thought Gene Hackman was the Lex Luthor, because he's Gene Hackman. And Gene Hackman's great. He's Gene Hackman up that entire thing. And he's got some of the best stuff in Superman 2, his interaction with Zod. So I'm not crapping all over Gene Hackman's Lex. I just never thought it was particularly Lex Luthor-ish. And I think before now, my favorite would have been Kevin Spacey, but, you know, kind of by default, because all the other Lex Luthor TV guys, you know, like I have a thing when the Lex Luthor actors won't shave their head or put on a bald cap. It's like,
yeah, it's kind of goofy.
I mean, the only one I would give the pass for it, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but is Jesse Eisenberg, because he was playing a Lex Luthor that was kind of pre-supervillain Lex Luthor, right? That was in Batman versus Superman. That was kind of his genesis as, you know, billionaire with issues to supervillain. So, you know, that's why you get the baldness at the end. But like, you know, like all of these television ones and Gene Hackman, it's like, guys, have you just shave your head or don't take the role, like one or the other.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry, it's not that. It can't be that tough. Exactly. Or you create a bald cap and just go with it. That's it. Like, come on.
Right.
Stop being silly.
But yeah, so definitely my favorite live action Lex Luthor to date.
All right. So in the first scene of the episode, too, by the way, we find out apparently in the CW verse that vampires are really actually just aliens that have teeth
I loved that.
I thought it was actually pretty smart. It was like an interesting twist on the whole thing.
And they're hunting this guy, and he's like, I'm not a vampire. Let me explain. They're like, we know you're actually from a planet, and you're a different species. And I love that they explain it to him, and he's like, oh, so you know. That was just such a fun exchange.
Yeah, it was a pretty cool thing, which I didn't see coming. Once I saw the vampire teeth and everything, and he was breaking into the blood bank, I'm like, what the hell is going on here right now?
Vampires on Supergirl? What?
Yeah, I'm like, what is going on here? But it was an interesting thing. Yeah, they're from another planet and everything like that. And, you know, they don't really like hunt people down. I guess they just kind of like drink the blood or whatever. I don't know. It was like a slightly different thing. All right, so we get that. Yeah, I think it's on the planet was like Transylvanian or something like that.
Yes, like that's right. It was a play on the name Transylvania for sure.
Yeah. Which I thought that was interesting, because they do go ahead and they end up recruiting the guy to help them break into the Phantom Zone, because in the past he did break into Phantom Zone to save his boyfriend or husband or something like that. He
was trying to save his husband, but it sounded like it had failed. Yeah,
exactly. So it did fail, and he was really terrified. But then we also find out that there's actual phantoms in the Phantom Zone, which is pretty different.
It's very different, but I thought it works for what they're doing, because when we're doing Superman, right? When we're doing a Superman movie, let's say, and you know, you're confined to the Phantom Zone, and it's like, okay, you don't really have to show much. We're never going to the Phantom Zone.
Just show this.
Right, exactly. But if you really want to dramatize like why the Phantom Zone is scary for this type of show, right? Because again, this is this is a live action comic book at this point, right? They're not even trying to be realistic, which I love about it. So, how do you do that? Well, we're on a budget. We can't give you crazy special effects. We're going to give you phantoms. Why do you think it's called the Phantom Zone? Because there are phantoms there. And you know what? All aboard for it. And the phantoms were kind of creepy looking.
They were pretty creepy looking. I give them credit for that. They were kind of reminded me sort of like, what is it, the Dementors from Harry Potter? They were kind of just like flying around there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what made me think of. And then we find out that the phantoms can make you like, what is it, like hallucinate, and you can see like certain things and like from that looks like reality, and you kind of just end up getting like mind warped into believing it. And then Kara is in the Phantom Zone. We see her. And she sees her father, and she thinks it's a hallucination, but she actually finds out her father is in the Phantom Zone. That he's been there the whole time, that he used it as a way to kind of like save himself when Krypton was exploding. Because we do know that Kara was trapped in there as well, but with different times. And then there's a nod made to Crisis on Infinite Earths that it changed the Phantom Zone. So when that whole thing happened, I thought that was actually pretty cool. Another thing to know that there's a connected universe that has repercussions when these things happen. So I thought, that was smart. Yeah, so, and did you also notice, talking about Lex's trial again, the jury was virtual because they said it was to protect them. But we obviously know that this was shot during COVID. So it was a way to not have too many people in the same room at the same time. I thought that was kind of clever, a clever explanation around it.
Yeah, I thought it was absolutely very clever. My only issue with it, and it has nothing to do with the show, it was kind of like, this looks like now. Oh no, this looks like something. They're not touching on COVID stuff, and of course they're not, but it's like we're living in a COVID world, so that the production had to sort of do what they had to do. But that was my only issue with it. It was reminded me too much of reality.
Well, because they can't really do COVID in the CW verse, because it'd be like, oh, well, we can just talk to Lex Luthor or somebody, we'll just figure it out, and they'll solve it in 2 seconds.
And look, I don't want anyone talking about COVID in the CW verse. I don't want COVID in my escapism, okay? At this point, I want to escape COVID. That's why I come to these shows.
Exactly. But we also got to see Otis, by the way. Otis and Tessmacher both in it. Otis talking about Kablooey and like wanting to blow shit up, being all goofy. He was hilarious.
I love that they brought in like this psychopathic idiot Otis, and I love that scene where like Lex Luthor wins, and he goes, "I didn't think I was gonna win." And Otis is like, "Yeah, still Kablooey." And he's like, "No, we're gonna blow the courtroom up. I won."
You know what I was waiting for there? I was waiting for the music to kick in. Doom, 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 doom. Oh man, that would have been great if they would have just did something like that with it, but because they do clever references to the older stuff. And
well, just Miss Tessmacher and Otis themselves like are references, nods to those first couple of ones.
Yeah, it's awesome that they were involved in it. They actually introduced them like before Lex showed up on the show, and I'm like, wow, cool. they're using Tessmacher and they're using Otis. I'm like, Lex has it, and I don't remember if I remember correctly. Like, they never mentioned Lex yet, only a name, but they didn't mention, like, John Cryer was going to be Lex. And then later, eventually, they mentioned that, and I'm like, oh, wow, they're going to get them together. This is going to be awesome.
So cool, yeah.
And then, I guess the last thing to talk about with Supergirl, though, before we move on, it was an exchange on Twitter that me and you were both involved in with our friend, our buddy DeAnthony. There's a scene in this where Brady goes ahead and picks up a pizza away from a table and like casually grabs it like he kind of just takes it like this, like it's nothing, and walks away. Obviously an empty pizza box. Really, guys?
Yeah, that was ridiculous. That was a good catch, man. If you're watching, great catch. That was hysterical.
Yeah, Dave, if you're watching this or you listen to it at any point, man, like, listen, awesome catch. Props to you because you did catch it before. And I went ahead and watched it then, and I'm like, what the hell just happened right now? Really?
The only thing I could think of is that he had black hole anchovies as a topping. And as we know, if you come from wherever the hell Brainy comes from, black hole anchovies are little anchovies that cause black holes that change the physics of the pizza and allow you to just pick it up, the box up like this, and still the integrity of the pizza's there. And
Of
if you
course.
believe that, then please at me. I have a bridge to sell you all.
No, I love that. I love the black hole pizza thing, man. I think that should definitely be something we'll bring into reference every so often with us.
Black hole pizza.
So
it's the best thing to go with Granny's peach tea. Black hole pizza.
That's it. You could have it for dinner on a Friday night. Black hole pizza, little Granny's peach tea. Maybe you throw stuff in. What did Anthony call it in Suicide Squad? The hole of garbage or something like that. The hole of trash.
Oh, bro, yeah, that's right. The mountain of trash or the mountain,
the mountain
something like that. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. So let's move on to the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, episode 3, though. So this is not the one that dropped today. It's the episode exactly, and that's the big thing.
That's right. And,
yes,
and guys, look, it took people years to get the Snyder cut released. MCU released the Zemo cut in like days.
And that's what I'm saying, man. Kevin Feige, they always give us what we want, man. It's just they know we wanted the Zemo cut. People are losing their shit about it all week, and we went with it. And it's funny. I remember I saw it the second I saw him dancing, man. I lost my mind. I thought it was hilarious.
So good.
And I texted
so
you guys after it. I'm like, did you guys see it? I'm not going to talk about not that anything else happened in the episode. I wanted to talk about. Please tell me somebody saw dancing Zemo. I thought it was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. It was fantastic.
It was wonderful. I'm loving. I mean, we're gonna get into it, and I'm not, I'm not gonna jump ahead or anything, but I am loving what they're doing with Zemo, in this episode and the episode we're gonna cover after this one. Like, one of my biggest problems, and not problems. I mean, Civil War is a fantastic movie. One of my nitpicks for that is that Baron Zemo was underserved, and of course he had to be. Like, he's the villain, but he's not really the villain. He's just they're each other's villains in Civil War. That's the point.
Yeah.
But I had always been regretful that Baron Zemo was underserved. I never really bought the guy they got to play him. Because I just didn't feel very Zemo to me. All of that has changed in these 2 episodes. Like, what they've done with him here, I'm kind of like, this is it. I'm all in for the Zemo.
Nice. Yeah, I agree with you. It's no, I mean, I like was it Daniel Bruhl? I like him in a lot of other things too. But yeah, his Zemo, I think I liked him in Civil War, but he wasn't. He was underserved. He wasn't like enough. He was just there to like push things in the right direction, and that was essentially it.
That's it. And I liked the acting a lot. So it was had nothing to do with the actor. I just kind of said this literally could be any like C or D tier villain they could burn to do this. Why are they burning Captain Zemo, who is, kind of like, I would say an upper B-level villain for Captain America in the Avengers?
Yes.
Right? Like,
yes.
he's not Thanos level or anything, but he's a good street level, like adventure type guy. And I always felt like burning him for Civil War when there was nothing particularly Zemo about him was a mistake. But but it got us here. So how much could I complain about it? Because he's very Zemo in this.
Hashtag in Marvel we trust. Yes,
yeah,
for those also
true.
calling
it's
us
true.
a DC show, because there's been some people who've been labeling us a DC show. We are not. We are for everyone. We have a hashtag in Marvel we trust, and it's for a reason. If we were a DC show, that would not be anywhere near us.
True.
All right, so let's jump into our MCU smorgasbord that we have, because we're covering 2 episodes tonight. So, in the beginning of the last week's episode, in episode 3 of Falcon and Winter Soldier, we pretty much get John Walker and Hoskins are in Munich tracking down the Flag Smashers, but they come up empty. But then you start seeing Walker. It's the first time we see John Walker getting annoyed and frustrated with people, and you can kind of start seeing his edge to him a little bit, and he visibly shows that frustration. And Hoskins is kind of like reining him in. That was my takeaway from that opening scene. And I kind of felt like he was displaying like an entitlement of being Captain America. Because he tells the guy, like, "Do you know who I am?" And he's like, "Yeah, I do." And he's like, "But he doesn't care," and spits in his face.
Yeah, and he gets really incensed about that. And you can see, I mean, not like, who wouldn't get mad if someone spit in your face, but like if someone spit in Captain America's face, and when I say Captain America, please understand, I'm always referring to Steve Rogers, as he is the only Captain America in my book. But if someone spit in Steve Rogers' face, he'd be like, well, that wasn't nice. You know, he'd be annoyed, but John Walker's like, you can see him like getting like he wants to get violent. You know, like he wants to retaliate. And I thought that was a great way to start setting up what and again, you and I have read comics. We know pretty much where USA Agent goes, so we have an idea of where this is going. And with that in mind, I was like, this is a nice way to sort of start setting that up for the audience. Like, oh, he's not like the all-American hometown boy that you guys that we wanted you to believe he is. And here's like one of the cracks right there.
Yeah, because it was the way that they've introduced him in the MCU to everybody, even though the second people saw him in a costume, fans lost their minds and hated him more than anything. But remember, though, in the context of the story, he was still being portrayed as, like, when he makes that appearance on Good Morning America, as being the all-American boy and everything like that. And, he does have the immaculate Army record and his military record. It does speak for itself, and it shines through, and they're just letting you know legitimately why somebody would say, this is Captain America. But then you start seeing it, like you said, we know what U.S. Agent's about, and we know he's got a streak in him. And this is the first time that I recall seeing it. Or if you want to say maybe the second time, because at the end of the previous episode, when he tells, after Sam and Bucky are like, that they're free agents, they're going to do their own thing. When he says, just stay out of my way, stay the hell out of my way. That's when maybe you want to say there was the first seed planted. And then this really visibly showed him getting like angry, like, how dare you talk to me? I'm Captain America. I'm Captain America. This comes with like automatic respect when Steve Rogers never would have done that.
No, Steve Rogers actually, he wasn't looking for respect. And that's what they're setting up here. The difference between John Walker and Steve Rogers, right? It's not about who puts the suit on. It's about the person in the suit. And that's what this exploration I think is going to be. And I really I think this is just such a good way of going about it. You're right, because we've never seen in all of the phases, we've never seen Captain America be entitled, you know who I am, I'm Captain America, this and that. Even when facing down dangerous villains, he doesn't even like shit talk that much. You know what I'm saying?
No. It's
kind of beneath him. So to see now the new Captain America, like getting in people's faces with this, like it's almost like he assumed that once he put this on, he would be Captain America. Everyone would treat him like Captain America. He would get the same carte blanche and respect. But again, that was not him. That was Steve Rogers who garnered all of that. And so it's interesting to watch him wrestle and kind of get like pissy about not having that right away.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a perfect way to capture it. If you want to say his Captain America privilege was showing through, then perhaps that's a scene where you want to go through that. So then the next scene goes there, and then we see Sam and Bucky visit Zemo, because that's where they were on their way the last time we saw them. And Zemo instantly tries to activate the Winter Soldier. He starts saying the words and everything, and you can see he's like really pricking him, because right after he says them, he instantly says, "Oh yeah, I can tell it's not going to work, but I just wanted to see what you were going to react like." And that was it. So he's already starting to play like head games with Bucky. But then I think it's great, though, that we instantly see Bucky and Sam together shortly after that. And Bucky's walking Sam through a hypothetical scenario. They meet
scenario.
It was fantastic. It was like, and they meet in a weird place.
Yeah. Halfway through it, I'm like, oh, this isn't hypothetical. This is actually happening, isn't it?
Exactly.
That setup was so good. It was so good. Like, hypothetically, let me walk you through this. So if we did do this, and then he starts narrating, and what is it? So, someone would have to cause a distraction between the guards. And like, he gives like the rundown of, the guards change shift at this point. And for every one person in the place, there are certain guards assigned, right? A certain number of guards. So if 2 people fight, 4 guards have to show up. So if you get and it's all this crazy, so if we can somehow get the prison to erupt at the right time and then pull the fire alarm and Zemo already has the card, and it's just, and then Sam just goes, how would we do all of that? And he's like, oh, well,
why would the two He was like, "Why would the prisoners fight? That doesn't make sense. What do you mean?"
That's it.
And then you saw him unrolling the paper like, "This guy's gonna kill you tonight, or whatever. You got to kill him first." And then in the middle of it too, Sam asking Bucky, "Where the hell are we, by the way? What is going on here right now?" It was fantastic, man. It was so well played in the way it was shown. And then Zemo walks in because it wasn't hypothetical. He literally helped break him out. And the way that they yelled at him, because Zemo tries to talk to them, and they're both yelling at each other, and they yell back at him like, to shut up and stuff. Again, very Lethal Weapon, like they were talking like with Leo Getz. That's exactly what it reminded me of. It's exactly what it reminded me.
Oh my god! Zemo is the Joe Pesci of the show. I didn't realize it.
He is Baron Getz, essentially. That's kind of what he looks like if you go in with the Lethal Weapon lens looking at this thing.
Oh, so good.
And if you haven't seen Lethal Weapon, you better go see it, man, because those movies are fantastic.
That first one especially.
Yeah, the first one's absolute classic, and I like the sequels. It's one of the.
They're all good.
We know they don't always hold up. Usually they progressively get worse, but that I think it's just that cast is just so loving. You can tell they get along, that it's just everything is fine with them. Which we get here too, with Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan. It just shows through every single time that they're just like they are buddies off screen as well, and it just shows, man.
They're like. Their connection in real life definitely adds to why these characters work together on screen. Like, I think if they didn't have that friendship off screen, this would still be good, but I don't think it would be as good as it is, because you completely buy that these characters that kind of don't like each other, right? They're kind of frenemies in this. You buy this back and forth between them because these guys are such good friends and know each other so well and know how to sort of spar back and forth verbally, that it sells it on a whole new level.
Yeah, absolutely. That's spot on. So then the next scene goes ahead when we actually get officially Baron Zemo. We find out that Helmet Zemo has been a Baron the whole time, and he's rich. He has cars. He has his own plane. He has a butler. He has all this stuff. He has like this coat and everything. And he takes them where there's a bunch of cars there, and he's like, "Oh, this isn't time for like Grand Theft Auto." And he's like, "No, they're mine. What are you talking about here?" He goes, he grabs his jacket, but then he grabs the mask. The purple mask is grabbed then, which is his trademark from the comics. And even like kind of in a weird way, the coat that they chose for him kind of somewhat reminds me of the comics accurate costume in a weird way. I guess it's just like the collar, the big collar. And it's great to see. So he's officially Baron Zemo, the character that we've been waiting for, essentially, for him to become. If you want to say it's a little bit of a retcon to his origin, but they do tie it in where he's like, well, with Sokovia falling and stuff like that, like this whole, I lost everything with that.
And I think that was a great, it's a retcon, but whatever. Like, we never really got much from him. I didn't know anything. No one knew anything about him from Civil War. It wasn't about him. Yeah. So I like the fact that they retconned it. I like the fact that they found like a logical reason for his motivations and a logical place for him in this MCU. And I really like the line. I think Falcon says to him, "Oh, so you're rich now?" And he's like, "My family was royalty until you guys, the Avengers, came and destroyed my country." Like, and I'm paraphrasing, but it was such a very like poignant moment, because I kind of went, yeah, that is kind of like, all right, like Ultron did that, but Tony Stark created Ultron. So yes, I could see where he's coming from, and I completely get the motivation of his to destroy in Civil War, destroy the Avengers. And now in this, his motivation is just no super soldiers, no superheroes, no supremacists, everyone's level. And with that knowledge that I was a Baron in a country that these superpowered creatures destroyed, like, his motivation makes sense. So I don't mind any retcon they did there, because I think it makes them feel more real in this world they've built.
I couldn't agree with you more. That's exactly what I got from it. And they do lean into, in both of these episodes, they lean into a lot of Zemo hammering home his motivation for this. And you can see where we'll discuss his actions at times through it. And you can really get it, and you can buy into it. And again, they kind of somewhat make him a sympathetic figure to this. You can kind of get where he's coming from, which is important for every villain, not just to be mustache twirling villain just to say I'm evil to be evil. Like, he has legit motivations. But on that plane there, so he pretty much tells them they got to go to Mandrapore, which, for anyone who, for a lot of people may recognize Mandrapore from Marvel Comics. It is a place it's an island off of like South Asia in the comics, which is a lot. It has to do with the X-Men a lot. A lot of references there. Like Logan seems to like to hanging out there as well, and it's in I believe it's in Punisher Warzone at one point too. So it is a thing that's there. So I thought that was actually pretty cool, and I was waiting for people to be like, "Here it is. There's the introduction to the X-Men. They have Mandrapore. Blah 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 blah."
Yeah.
Mephisto.
Mephisto.
I mean, listen, they use Mandrapore. It's okay, man. It's fine. But on that flight, though, there's a really great moment, I thought, like when Zemo was talking to him and he's explaining his motivations and stuff, and like how someone like Steve Rogers and maybe putting him on a pedestal and forgetting any of his flaws could be very problematic, and we don't want to live in a world like of all Red Skulls and stuff like that, because he was also one who did have the super soldier serum as well. I thought that was a really interesting conversation. But then Zemo gets a hold of Bucky's book, which we find out it was actually Steve Rogers' book that he was using when he was taking his notes that we saw in Captain America the Winter Soldier, when he was writing down, though, things that he missed during time. And during that, though, when Sam first meets Steve, he tells him about the Trouble Man soundtrack from Marvin Gaye and everything. And then they asked Bucky about it. He's like, well, I just listened to music in the 40s, so, it's like that. And then Zemo was like, it's a masterpiece. I mean, it's so excellent. And he gets into, like, really diving into it. And then, like, Sam looks at him, and he wants to say something to him, like, but he's right. He knows what he's talking about. He's actually correct there. I agree. Like, you got to listen to it. Steve loved it. You should love it. What the hell? Like, they go right back into it and balancing things out. Like, it's really awesome, man, the way that the show is written for that. So then we get a scene after that where Carly is at the side of Danya Mamadani, who turns out at the moment we don't know who she is. Yeah, we don't know who she is at the time, but like we see briefly that Carly's there. Carly cares about this person. This person passes away, means a lot. And that's kind of what we get briefly, because it's a very quick scene that's there, which we will discuss soon, that it turns out to be a pretty huge deal for her. And a lot of her motivation is there. It turns out to be someone she looked up to, because I wasn't too clear at that point who that was. But they get to Mandrapore, and Bucky, Sam, and Zemo arrive, and Zemo's telling them that they're going to have to be in disguise, that their life depends on it. So he's just being Baron Zemo. He's got his coat, and then Bucky, we're getting there, and Bucky has to be the Winter Soldier, though. He can't be Bucky. He's like, listen.
That was cool.
And we find out, though, that a lot of people know of the Winter Soldier. Like, it wasn't just a thing that, like, Hydra kept under wraps. Winter Soldier has a rep around a lot of shady places.
He was obviously being used, like, as a mercenary, right? That's what Hydra was using him as an assassin, as a mercenary, as a weapon, exactly. So, of course, Hydra would have sent him out on many missions throughout the years, and of course he would have gained a reputation. And of course, people like this would know him, because these are the crowds Hydra would have, the circles Hydra would have been around. So I love the fact that, like, people see him and it's like, oh, well, like, they're kind of afraid, like, or in awe, some of them, or curious. But I love that they knew him and that he had to play the Winter Soldier, because again, his arc is all about making amends and getting away from his past and what he was forced to do. And in this moment, he has to sort of recapture that and get back in that headspace for them all to get through this. And I thought that was a really, really cool choice for that character.
Yeah, no, I absolutely. And but then Sam, though, is given the alias of Conrad Mack. So Conrad Mack is also Smiling Tiger, and he's also a character in the comics who has enhanced abilities and stuff like that. but that it's another legit character. And then Zemo shows in the pictures like, this is the guy you need to be, and you need to really be him. And then he's like, okay, fine. Well, this guy really does look like me. Okay, so I'm going to be this guy. And they get to the bar where they're going to meet one of the power brokers people, Selby. So when they get to the bar, though, like the bartender says to pretty much prove themselves. And Smiling Tiger apparently drinks a drink that you cut open a snake, and like they put some shit in a glass. And Sam's face is priceless, and he has to do the shot for it. And Zemo was referring to Bucky as Winter Soldier constantly, and you can tell people are scared. They're genuinely scared. And then when some of the power brokers, like men, start kind of pushing up on them, he activates the Winter Soldier. And that's when Sam, like you were saying, Sam has to go into that headspace, and he kicks ass in this bar that they're at. And he throws on. You could tell he like really gets there, and Sam has to check in on him and say, you all right, Buck? Like, are you okay? And he has to like take it down a notch then, because you could tell he's probably reliving a lot of the shit. Like you said, he's trying to move on from. So,
and Zemo has a great line. I don't remember if it's there or if it's shortly after there, but about that transformation, he says to Sam, he got back into character pretty easily. Like I'm paraphrasing, but he does comment like he was able to do that a bit too easily, don't you think? And Zemo, this whole episode and in the next episode, he's playing mind games. He's the smartest guy in the room when it comes to these heroes, and he's absolutely manipulating them at every level. And I thought this was just one of those great manipulative levels where he pushes Bucky to get back in that headspace and then go, that's a bit too easy, don't you think? Like sort of trying to maybe cast doubt or, just get in Bucky's head. And again, it was a beautiful little character moment.
And gets in Sam's head, because then you're wondering if he's throwing in doubts in Sam's head. Yeah, like maybe this guy isn't completely over this. You never really know. So we get that, and then Zemo is there. They're talking to Selby. They're trying to get information on the doctor who recreated the super soldier serum for the power broker. And then throughout this whole thing too, whenever they're in Mandrapore, there's a lot of the power brokers watching. The power brokers here, and I think Zemo does say at a moment, every kingdom needs their king or something like that. You can tell the power broker is running shit in Mandrapore. Like, he is very, very present. His people are everywhere. Everyone knows of him. They all fear him. So one of the things that Zemo offers up to Selby, though, is the Winter Soldier. They're like, hey, you give me this information, I'm going to give you the Winter Soldier with all the activation codes and all this other stuff. And, like, it's enticing. She just saw the guy in action. And that's actually when they see him in action is when they agree to the meeting in 2 seconds. Oh, yeah, Selby wants to see you now. So you can see the value there of Bucky, or at least as the value of the Winter Soldier. So then Sam has to take a call on a speakerphone because his sister calls him at the worst time possible.
Which I want to point out, this is actually my one problem with the episode, is like Sam. What's wrong with fucking Sam in this? He knows better. He's been through how many of these movies? He was in the military. He doesn't know to shut his fucking phone off when he's going to do black ops. Like that, I have to admit that, because Sam is smarter than that. Like, I don't see the character forgetting to turn his phone off and having that issue, because that's just the easiest way to blow your cover, and that's what happens. So I kind of had an issue with that moment, but I mean, it's a small issue. I got over it because it's a great episode. Yeah,
it's a moment used for them to essentially blow their cover, so shit has to start happening, and it does. Then we see Selby get shot. She gets taken out immediately. And it's, you assume this is by the power broker, or that's there, but they pin it on them. Pretty much, it's pinned on them. The text goes out like assassins. It kind of looks very John Wick like that, where everyone, all of a sudden you see all these like assassins essentially getting a bounty text saying to go ahead and take them out. So there is that. But then they're escaping, it ensues. The three of them are running, Zemo, Sam, and Bucky. And then their asses are saved by Sharon Carter, who we find out is in Mandrapore. We find out that she's still an enemy of the state, even after everything that happened. She was not forgiven. She explains the Avengers didn't have my back. what did you guys do? Like, I stole the shield. And she has that great moment where she's like, wait a second, I stole the wings and the shield for you to go ahead and to save him, to keep him away from him. That was great because the three of them are together right there.
That was great.
That was pretty great. Nice nod back to Captain America Winter Soldier. So we find out though Sharon's changed a lot. She's a hustler now. She's selling like art underground and things like that. She's making her life there because she can't go back to her country. But then we also find out though she doesn't believe in heroes. Essentially, now she thinks it's all bullshit and it's all hypocritical. And the whole Captain America thing was kind of BS in a way. Not that she's saying Steve Rogers was, but kind of like just the concept of the whole Avengers and everything. Yeah. She's not buying into it these days. But Sam offers her like, hey, listen, if you help us out here, I'll help you get a pardon. I can do that. I've been pardoned. He's been pardoned. They can go ahead and they can help you out too. So she's like, all right, I would like to go home. She instantly was like, okay, that's something that you have that I would want. But then while they're doing that though, while she's setting things up, she tells them to lay low. And that's when we get the moment of the week. We get Dancing Zemo. They're dancing in Sharon's gloves like it was everywhere. It owned the internet for the entire week. We referenced the Zemo cut.
It did.
Absolutely hilarious, man. And Daniel Brawl was talking about it. He was like even saying, that was improvised completely. Because he was even saying
that's awesome.
Yeah, he says in an interview that I checked out, like something along the lines of, this guy's been locked up for years, man. He needs to let loose. He needs to party. So he goes ahead and he does that, and it's great.
And his characterization of Zemo, that completely felt right to me because he's not this like uptight like arch villain. He's a mover, he's a manipulator, he's a guy who could theoretically cut loose and just sort of go to the club and do a little dance. He's Sokovian, you go to a Sokovian nightclub on a Friday or Saturday night, I mean, he was Sokovian royalty. He probably owned nightclubs.
Absolutely. So that's what we get there. And then, but Sharon does deliver the goods and is like, hey, they find a way to track down Dr. Wilfred Nagel, who apparently we find out a lot of information about him, and that apparently he was hired by Hydra. He was working to recreate the super soldier serum, which everyone in the Marvel Universe is always trying to do. But then we find out he also got blipped. He was snapped out of existence.
I loved that moment where he's talking about it. And he's like, so I was on the, so I was hired. So first he was hired by Hydra, right, to do it.
Yeah.
And he was working on it. And he's like, yeah. And then I got really close and I almost did it. And someone says, well, then why didn't we have super soldiers, running around with the serum? He goes, because I got snapped away. And then I come back and they've closed my area down. No one wants to let me work on this anymore. So I really appreciated, this happens, something like this happens again in the next episode we're going to talk about, but I really appreciated them dealing with some real world consequences for individuals with the blip, because this was a guy who was going to live his dream of creating super soldier serum and creating a super soldier army for Hydra. And what stopped him? This.
Thanos.
And I just thought that was a cool tie-in. Yeah.
Yeah, and he even says too, it's like, I was a god. He does get into it. Like, how valuable is that? You're doing the one thing that no one else has been able to do. I mean, even Banner was trying to do it, and that's how he ended up like turning into the Hulk. Like, there's a lot of missteps of people trying to recreate the super soldier serum in the Marvel Universe. But then we do find out though that he was a lot of his research was on experiments on Isaiah, who we found out was, another, he was an African-American soldier that was experimented on and did fight, and he was sent after Bucky, and they fought, and we met him in the last episode. And you can see on Sam and Bucky's face, they're like, once he said he was experimenting on them, like, that's what was being done. And they were just, you could tell it was like really pissing them off again. Like, that Isaiah had to kind of go through this kind of shit. But he also says, though, the power broker is the one when I came back 5 years later that was willing to finance my work. So I went to work for him and I created 20 vials. And that was that. and now they were stolen by Carly Morgenthau, and the Flag Smashers. So that's we get a lot of background on it. But instantly though, Zemo goes right back to it. After, even though we had dancing Zemo and we had all this other stuff, the second he gets the opportunity, boom, he pops Dr. Nagel in the head immediately, saying, "No more super soldiers. That's it. I'm going to end this shit right now. Thank you for telling me who you are. We found you. You're done." And of course, everyone else is like, "Holy shit, you just killed our fucking lead. What the hell is going on here?" But while this is all going on...
I love that everyone is shocked about that, as if Baron Zemo hasn't been saying, "My goal is to destroy super soldiers and create equality and not allow super soldiers to be created at any cost." Like, what did they think he was going to do? Take this guy to picnic and ask him nicely to stop creating super soldier serum? No, you put a villain hell-bent on doing something in a room with you, that villain, and you ignore him, because they just like go, "Oh, we trust Zemo. Zemo's a good guy. He's helping us out." And Zemo just like, "No, I'm doing my own thing." Like, what did they expect?
Dancing Zemo got their guard down. That's what it was.
That's what it was.
They danced together in a nightclub. That left it as like, all right, maybe he's okay now. But while this is going on, though, this whole interrogation, Sharon Carter's outside kicking ridiculous ass on a bunch of bounty hunters that were coming to get them. She is destroying them. Like, it was bananas. I didn't even lost count out of how many she was taking down. It was crazy, to the point where she goes ahead and goes inside. I was like, listen, there's more coming. I could probably kick their ass or so, but like, we gotta get this going. What the hell? Why is Nagel dead? Fucking Zemo, man. What the hell? So Zemo, it gets blown up. Zemo takes the opportunity to disappear again. So there's a whole battle that's ensuing and stuff like that. And he puts on the mask, though. We see him. So we see him put on the mask again, and he starts kicking ass too. So that mask has a relevance that we actually don't really still know yet, even though we've seen this episode and the next episode. And I'm dying to find out what the relevance is to him putting on that mask. Like, I really, really want to know. I'm dying to know what they're gonna go into with that, because I'm sure that they will.
Yeah, it's got to have some significance, or he wouldn't have gone back to the car to get it to kick the ass. He could have just kicked some ass without it. So they're setting it up where it has to have some form of relevance.
Exactly. So the bounty hunters that are, once that whole thing is done, we also got a nice little nod to Captain America Civil War, because they get in, Zemo shows up with his car, his like supercharged car that he finds there, and he just pulls up. He's like, you guys essentially need a ride, and they get in. Sam gets in the front seat, and Sam gets in the back seat, right? And Bucky's in the front seat, and he tells him, are you gonna move your seat up? And he's like, no. Again, like that's exactly that's the first buddy cop moment we got in Captain America Civil War for them, when Steve was talking to Sharon Carter. So I thought that was a nice little callback to that. But then there's an interesting scene following where Carly kind of gets humanized for the first time, where she's there, she's talking to one of the other Flag Smashers, and they get into a discussion about what she wanted to be before this whole thing happened. She wanted to be a teacher. She wanted to do this. She wanted to do that. And he starts, sharing what he wanted to be as well. And I think he also talks, he had to go work in Manjapur as kind of like a hired gun and stuff. But then there is that. But then you can see on her face, though, she knows what's about to happen. And I guess she didn't let her, associates in on the plan, because they ended up bombing the damn, was GRC. It's the GRC base where they end up bombing, and they're killing innocent people. And it even gives her a look like, what the hell? Like, I agree with what we're fighting for, but your methods are starting to get a little wonky there. I don't know if I can really go fully all in on this. But they talk about essentially turning the tables on the power broker, though, because they're like, listen, we have the vials that are left. He's going to come running back. Don't worry about it. Like, we're the ones in control now. So that sets the tone moving forward. But then Walker and it cuts to a scene where John Walker and Lamar Hoskins, they're trying to go ahead and they go to look for Zemo, and they find out Zemo was gone, and they're getting pissed now. They're like, all right, listen, what the hell happened? And they kind of put it together where they're like, they definitely let this guy out. They helped break him out. There's no question about it. You can see Walker's like all about that, but he starts talking about cutting corners, and he's justifying, the ends to his means. So
Mhm.
that's where and Hoskins even gives him a look like, okay, so this is what we're gonna do. And Walker's like, yeah, they're not gonna ask any questions.
And this comes into play, what I'm about to say, big time in the next episode. But I think that they really set Hoskins up as John Walker's conscience or John Walker's good judgment, because you had said this before. He's always trying to rein him in, or he says, we got to cut some corners, and he's like, if that's what we're gonna do, but I don't think we should. Like, he's always the voice of reason. And I think that it's a really great setup for that. And the payoff in the next episode, which we'll get to, I think is just phenomenal.
Yeah, and it's interesting, though. We're actually breaking down this episode, but we already saw the next episode. So we're knowing where some of this is leading to. So it's a little bit of a different spin on it from our usual. But there's a scene in the plane.
Spoilers, no Mephisto, I promise.
No, definitely. Well, I can't guarantee that, though. There's still 2 episodes that we haven't seen, so it's all things are possible. So they go back into Zemo's plane, and Sam and Buck are having a conversation though about like Sam is kind of like really reflecting. He's thinking about Isaiah getting experimented on and all the shit that's going down, and he starts saying like, "Man, maybe I should have destroyed the shield. It's causing a lot of problems for a lot of people. Like it should have just maybe ended with Steve and that's it." And Bucky tells him, like, no, that shield means a lot. It means a lot to a lot of people. It means a lot to me as well. So, like, you can't do that. And and if I remember correctly, he even talks about, like, maybe going ahead and just getting it from Walker and is like, enough with this bullshit already. So then we see the Flag Smashers. They rob the GRC of some supplies, and they blow it up and they're killing innocents. Sorry, I jumped around with that. But then the ending scene was left. It was a pretty big cliffhanger. Zemo was they're with Zemo, and they're going ahead and they're going to talk to him. They're going to go check out the site where Mom and Dami was, because they figure that they're going to find Carly there for the services and stuff. So they want to kind of go inspect that. But then when they're walking down the street, though, Zemo's telling them about Sokovia and what happened with Sokovia, and it's like, yeah, you guys would have never bothered to go visit anyway. So what does it matter? But he lays the groundwork, which could be. A lot of people are really speculating, though, that it's still laying the groundwork for Sokovia to be reborn as Latveria. Now, I don't want to get you too excited.
Oh, that's interesting. That is interesting.
And I don't think we're going too crazy with Mephisto. Yeah.
No, I mean that kind of makes sense, because that's what happens in real life when civil war or war, something topples countries, or internal strife. Like, new countries emerge, smaller countries emerge from the rubble. So that would completely make sense if that's an avenue they're going to go.
Yeah, and again, I don't think we joke about the Mephisto sauce, but we were in. But this could be a way to do it, because they haven't really mentioned it as a country that exists, and we're believing it's going to exist sooner or later. So maybe the country could be reborn as that. I don't know. It could be laying the groundwork for it. We're not saying we're going to see Victor Von Doom in this series. We're not saying anything like that. No. We're not suggesting any of this crap. Okay, so don't come after us. It's just
possibly that at some point when we get to the Fantastic Four and Doom, it might be this has laid some groundwork of, Latveria, the former Sokovia nation. It might be something like that. I think that's what we're looking at if it happens.
Exactly.
Just a nice Easter egg.
Yeah. And they always cross all their T's and dot all their I's, so we know that could be a thing. So, but in the last scene, though, while they're walking to there, Bucky notices that they're being trailed, and you can see he's seeing little things here and there. And then he says, "I'm going to go take a walk. Let me go find out." And he starts calling out, and we find out that the Dora Milaje is on site, and they know Zemo's out. They want Zemo. They want Zemo's ass, because he did still kill King T'Chaka. They haven't forgot. Obviously, didn't forget about that. So once they know he's out of prison,
we're not gonna forget.
Yeah, we want our pound of flesh out of this fucking guy. So that's where and she even says, we're here for Zemo. Boom, episode ends. So. Pretty big thing.
Sam foreshadows that.
Yeah?
Sam foreshadows that when they break Zemo out. He says to Bucky, the Wakandans are going to come after him. You don't think
Yes.
they forgot that they killed their king?
No, you're
So I
right.
thought it
And
was nice that they threw that in there.
yeah, absolutely. And I'm sorry. Yeah, we actually glossed over that when we were going ahead for that. But you're 100% right. There was immense foreshadowing. Now that we see that it's come to light. So we can jump into this. So now we are moving on to episode 4 of Falcon and Winter Soldier, entitled "The World Is Watching," and we will really get into why. So, spoilers. Okay, we are getting spoiler discussion. We are not going to go ahead and hold back on this. If you're watching and you're not listening, we have a spoiler warning on the bottom. So if you have not seen the Falcon Winter Soldier episode that dropped today on Disney Plus, please, we appreciate you checking us out, but come back after you watch the episode, please. We don't want to spoil anything for you, but we're going to get into spoilers here. So come check us out afterwards whenever you get a chance to. But let's get to it, man.
And I want to impress, though, because I'm a podcast listener who, when someone says spoilers like halfway through, and I'm like, I'll still watch the show. No, this was a good episode. It's an episode that if you are enjoying this show and this series, you don't want some of this stuff spoiled. It's going to take the piss out of it when you're watching. It's not going to be as sort of like powerful. So if you are someone who's going to watch this and you're kind of thinking, oh, I'll just turn this off or I'll just listen to this and go back and watch it, don't do it. Just go watch it first, okay? Because there's a lot of stuff that we're going to spoil that is some pretty powerful, in my opinion, stuff going on, so that you're going to want to see. So that's my piece about that.
No, absolutely. So we've been very crystal clear. And anyway, if you're listening, if you're watching, it's all there. Do not come at us for spoiling a damn episode for you, because it was a fantastic episode. Fantastic episode, man.
Yeah.
This really was. And I feel like each week we're like, man, this is the best one. This is the best one. This could be it. As much as we were happy and smiling last week with Dancing Zemo, not so much this week. This episode got a lot darker and a lot more serious, and it left you with your jaw on the floor. But the opening scene is showing. I'm sorry, the member of the Dora Milaje that I'm completely forgetting her name. There was it Coy? I believe it was Coy.
Maybe it was that. I'm terrible with names.
Yeah. So she's going ahead, and it opens where they're kind of deprogramming. It flashes back years where she's with Bucky when he was, essentially like dubbed the White Wolf, and he was in Wakanda, kind of rehabbing and recovering, and they're deprogramming. She's going through the words, was it homecoming, launching, all this other crap, and you could tell Bucky is like almost in tears, like he's scared it's not going to work. But it does, and she frees him of it. So they show you where, they show you firsthand where that happened and how it happened. And again, Wakanda, man, coming through and freeing a lot of things from freeing people from a lot of stuff around the world, man.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and it also sets up that Bucky has a personal relationship with this woman, to the point that she is part of the reason he has been able to get on with his life and not be sort of imprisoned by this Winter Soldier programming. So this is an important relationship, and that is important considering what's going to go down.
Yeah, no, it's immensely important. So yeah, sure, they do show you the relationship that Bucky has, and he's very thankful. He's very they're very tight. So essentially, though, they cuts back to the current present day. And she tells him, like, listen, you got to do what you got to do with Zemo. You're going to give you 8 hours. Then we're coming for him. That's it. And he's even saying, justifying, he's an ends to a mean. Whatever. We're coming to get him in 8 hours. That's it. We're not, and they don't fuck around. As we damn well know, they don't fuck around.
Ooh.
They are the elite. They are the elite army, man. So.
And she even says that, it's personal for her, because she says something to the effect of, I was on his guard. It was my job to protect him, and I failed him. So this is personal. This is her trying to make things right for what she sees as her failing to protect her king. And so I think that I love the fact that Marvel gives us these moments to make it personal to these characters. It's not just like, oh, we killed our king and we're going to go get him back and get revenge. It's no, I failed my king, And this guy is the way that I redeem myself, So it takes it to a whole new level.
Yeah. No, it's not. I think it's Ao. I think Ao is actually the character. Yes, I think that's actually who we meet. Believe it's Ao.
Oh, okay.
So I had to look it up quickly. At least the names of the members of the Durham Lodge that we've met so far. So I believe it's Ao. So she tells him that, and then there's a discussion in the hotel room where Zemo continues to hammer home his whole thing about no superheroes, no super soldiers. Again, hammering it at. I just killed the guy who went ahead and created the damn thing. I'm being crystal clear about this. This is why it shouldn't be. But he acknowledges though that Steve Rogers, because I think it's Bucky or Sam. One of them mentions, well, what about Steve? Sam says it, right? Sam says,
yeah. He says,
what about
Steve? Steve was, did good things with her, something like that. And Zemo goes, oh yes, he acknowledges that, and then that's when they start showing in that, it's not the serum that corrupts you, it's that most people given that power are susceptible to corruption, and Steve Rogers is the exception to that rule. Yes, Steve Rogers was not corrupted because Steve Rogers was this just this inexplicable paragon of virtue as a human being, but most people aren't that, and I think that's really the cool takeaway from that, and that ties into what they're doing with U.S. agents and Captain America, right? It's not the serum that makes you a villain or a hero. It's not the outfit that makes you the villain or the hero. It's the person inside, and I think that was another way for them to kind of add to that motif.
Yeah, and it harkens back a lot to, if you remember Captain America, the First Avenger, when Erskine is sitting down with him, right? The night before before he gives Steve the serum, when he's got the glass and he's about to do a shot, and he's like, oh, you don't do a shot. You have a thing tomorrow. I'm going to go ahead and I'll do the shot I'll do it for both of us. He explains to him, though, that it amplifies whoever you actually are. It makes a good man great. It makes an evil, like he talks about the Red Skull. It brought out really who he was. Like, he was an ugly, evil person, and that's what it is, and that's what it amplifies. So in this episode, it is a very underlining theme, because there's a lot of discussion about the serum and what would you take it? What would you do with it? Like, who is going to take it? It is the ongoing thread throughout this episode. All right, so we move on to Sam, Bucky, and Zemo. They ask around about Mama Donnie. They're looking for, and people are just walking away from Sam and Bucky. They're in like a building and they're like asking and stuff like that, and people just are walking away from them. They're not even saying no. They're just like, no, just closing doors in their faces. Just stay the hell away. But then Zemo goes ahead and he takes some candy called Turkish Delight. And he finds some kids. Again, smartest, like you said, Jason, smartest guy in the room. He takes some candy, some kids. Yeah, he lays it out there. His son's favorite candy or whatever. And he's like, let me find out some stuff about it. So they find out where the service is going. Zemo finds that out, and he tells the kids, see those two over there? Don't trust them. They're bad men. Yeah. They're evil. To stay away from them. So he's making sure he's got the upper hand on Bucky and Sam at that time. So I thought that was actually pretty smart too.
And a quick side note about the Turkish Delight. I don't know if this was intentional or not, but it could have been an allusion to the book The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, because that is actually there's a villain in that book who entices one of the children to her side with specifically Turkish Delight candy.
Oh.
And sort of allows her to manipulate him. So I'm wondering if the choice of Turkish Delight was sort of an intentional one to sort of, not that it means anything to the story, but just kind of like a nice allusion to literature there. So I just thought it was something interesting that I wanted to point out.
I did not know that, and to tell you the truth, they don't do anything haphazardly. So you're probably 100% right. That was probably a nice Easter egg and a nod to that. That's pretty cool, actually. So Sam has a quick conversation with Sharon and pretty much says, "Hey, listen, I need some help. Can you help me out here?" And we find out to track John Walker, and she's like, "Yeah, I might have some access to like a satellite or two." Because we found out in the last episode, Sharon is pretty hooked up over there in Manjapur, so she's got a lot of things at her disposal. So we find out later on, that comes in handy when tracking John Walker. So Carly has a conversation discussing how the Shield represents. She's talking to one of the other Flag Smashers. I don't know if that was her brother or something. I thought she said brother at one point. I wasn't sure. I don't think so.
I'm not sure. I didn't catch that.
Yeah, so they're talking at like a grave site, and they went to go visit, in a cemetery, and they're discussing, like, she's pretty much saying that the Shield represents an outdated ideology that no longer exists. Like, that's how heroes were back then. Again, still giving props essentially to Steve Rogers. They're not shitting on him at all. She's actually acknowledging it that he is one of a kind, and that's it. But like whatever's happening now is completely different. But she also wonders, though, she also alludes to that the Shield should probably be destroyed as well. So you got Sam saying it, you got Carly saying it now, that that's an outdated thing. So that's interesting because they have some conversations where they kind of see eye to eye later on in the episode. But the Flag Smasher that she's talking to says that today's heroes, though, they need to look a little bit different. They need to look like the people that they're protecting and be able to sympathize and understand what the pain that the people are going through. So it's time to kind of like update that. And there is a reference to that in the first episode where they're like, that heroes, that the current heroes for the current world that the MCU was in, the heroes need to reflect the people that are actually in it. So I thought that was pretty interesting. So Walker and Hoskins track down, we'll call them the crew, Zemo and Zemo and Bucky and Sam. But Sam suggests, like, listen, I can probably talk Carly down. So Walker and Hoskins and the crew, they're having a whole 5-person discussion, and then Sam suggests, like, maybe I could talk her down. It's a cool reference back to Winter Soldier, Captain America: The Winter Soldier. When we first meet him, we see that Sam was going ahead and working with veterans and talking to them about PTSD and the things that they go through. So we never really heard much of that talked about again until now. So I thought it was a cool reference and a nod to Sam's past. But Walker's not.
It was a great callback. It was a great callback, and I think it was a great way to sort of bring some skills in for Sam that aren't superhero skills, because he didn't take the Winter Soldier serum. He's not really a superhero. He's a very well-trained military guy with these wings, which allow him to kind of fly and do amazing stuff. But this is a show wrestling with, is a are you superpowered because of outside means, or does it also require inner strength? And so I thought it was a really nice way to hit that home and ground Sam. Like, no, we're forgetting something Sam does really well is understand the pain of veterans and soldiers and war-torn, and he knows how to connect with them. And so I thought it was just a really nice way to bring that in. And then, of course, as you said, U.S. Agent is not having any of it.
No, he's not having any of that. So Sam's being the level-headed one who's talking. And I also think it shows Sam in that light of he's being the hero that essentially the Flag Smashers kind of acknowledge could be what today's hero needs to be, which we all believe by the end of the series, Sam will be Captain America. So he will be that hero essentially that everyone kind of sees that we need right now. So I think that's pretty cool, where I can see that's foreshadowing to where that's going to be, that's going to lead to. But on the other end, though, the guy who has the shield right now is like, no, screw this. We need to go take Carly out. She's not who you think she is. We need to go kick some ass and and take her out. She cannot be bargained with. She can't be talked to, whatever. But Hoskins, again, being the voice of reason, like you said before, talks Walker back. I was like, all right, maybe we'll let this go and I'll give it a shot, and that's it. But Zemo, though, is seen where he goes out and he finds the kid that he spoke to, that he gave the Turkish delight to, his associate, because as he refers to as, and they get the information. So they go ahead and they decide to go ahead and track him down with that information. So the crew and Walker and Hoskins are going to the service where the kid told them where it was. So they go to the service, and Carly sees Sam, and so she knows that he's there, and you can tell she's kind of thrown off by it for a second, but she continues with the service, and she is talking. But then we also see, though, Walker cuffs Zemo as they're kind of like in the background, right? They're like behind the scenes, and they're getting ready to pounce when they get a chance. He cuffs Zemo immediately, not trusting him at all. And I think Zemo even says something like, well, that's fair. You know,
good.
I get that.
Yeah, like that's fair. Like, and the thing is, it's the one thing Walker does in this whole episode that I agree with, because I'm obviously Team Zemo. I've been defending Zemo's actions this whole time as just wonderful villain choices. But if you're good guys in a situation and you find yourself aligned with the villain, you have to neutralize the villain while you got other stuff going on, because Zemo's gonna stab you in the back.
Exactly.
And so that's the one thing Walker does. One thing he does, I'm like, that was smart.
Yeah, and he's tried to do it, and he's told you flat out,
yes.
This is what I'm here to do. I am going to do it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yes.
He's been straight out with
He's not lying to you.
No, he's not. He might be playing head games and fucking with you at times, but he's telling you the truth, though. He's not lying to you. So Sam and Carly have a nice conversation, though, after everyone leaves the service and everything. They come face to face at the funeral of Mama Donnie, and he sympathizes with her actions. Though he says, like, "Listen, I get where you're coming from. We're kind of on the same page. Like, we're here, but where you're losing me, though, is when you're going ahead and killing innocent people. Like, you can't do that. Like, what the hell?"
And I think it was such a brilliant moment between the two. It humanized Carly for me. I wasn't really about that character. I kind of thought it was like, you know, I got what she was doing, but I thought she was going a bit too far. But when she kind of breaks down, like, well, you know, we were invited back. We were all like, you know, I forget the term they use. They use a term when Sam calls them refugees. They go, we're not refugees, we're internationally displaced people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, she gives this whole speech about how, you know, after people went away, we were invited into countries. We built homes. We became citizens. And then once people came back, we were just discarded and thrown away and kicked out. And I think, like, I was sitting there going, yeah, I don't agree with her methods, but I completely see why these people are fighting and pissed off and are trying to take drastic means. And I think that's all. Sam has that moment too, because Sam is a guy who, you know, Sam is on the opposite. He was blipped away and he comes back and his life's gone, right? Like we see that, like he can't help his sister. He can't, you know, despite the fact that he's a an Avenger, he can't get a line of credit at a bank to get so he's kind of having this, even though he had the opposite experience of her, he's having this moment of, well, I was gone for 5 years, now I've come back and I've forgotten, people don't even care. And she's on the thing of, well, we were here and we were setting down roots and now people are back and no one cares about us. And they make that connection, and it really humanized her, and it really made me sympathize with the plight of the Flag Smashers. So I thought that this moment was done so well.
Yeah, now they're given something. They're given kind of like, if you look back, other MCU villain, like, you know, quote unquote villains, like Killmonger, even Thanos to an extent. You can kind of understand why he's doing what he's doing, but now the way he chooses to do it is where, you know, that's when he becomes the villain and loses people. But it's an interesting conversation, and you're right. It gave Carly like a real. This episode also gives her like a whole backstory and like a method behind her madness, for lack of a better term, that's there. So,
right.
Walker loses his patience as we start seeing little by little, and decides to break the shit up. He comes charging in. Of course, Carly's like, you know, what the hell? I thought you, because Sam does say he was alone. Finds out, you know, she finds out he's not alone. And she, you know, busts loose and kicks out of there and stuff like that. But there's a brief fight, and then like a chase ensues. Zemo gets loose because it cuts to that where there's all of a sudden the handcuff is hanging there. And he goes ahead though, but he shoots Carly. He gets around to her.
Yep.
He shoots her while she's trying to escape, and she essentially drops whatever serum that she had on her. And he even asks her, like, "Is that the serum?" She says yes. He obviously does what he's been saying he's going to do. He starts stomping on them and breaking them like crazy.
Yep. And then, I want to say, like, that moment for me really made me go, you know what? Zemo's not the villain in this. Like, he is a villain, of course we know that, but he's not a villain in this piece, because a villain would have gone, oh, power, sure, I hate power, but now I can have this power, and sure, maybe I'll use this power to stop other people with power. But Zemo doesn't do that. Zemo sticks to the goddamn plan, and he tries to smash each and every one of them.
And unfortunately, he doesn't stop one of them before he leaves. Because before he gets knocked out by the damn shield that comes flying and knocks him the hell out. And then, like you were saying though, Jason, a villain would have taken that. But John Walker shows up after he knocks out Zemo, sees one vial left, and casually puts it into his pocket. Because he's like, okay, this is interesting now. So he does find,
and he does have a moment. I'm sorry, but I don't remember when it was, but he does have a moment in this episode where it's
next.
Okay, all right. So let me shut up and I'll comment on it next. Okay.
One of my favorite scenes, and I think Jason, you'll agree, it's probably one of your favorites too. When right after that, though, the crew is talking in the hotel right there, and they're talking with Walker and Hoskins again, and they're going over stuff. And then, though, the Dora Milaje shows up. They're like, "Yo, time's up.
Awesome.
That's it. We're here." You know, AO lays it down. It's like, we're here for Zemo. You've had your time. Fun's over.
Gave you 8 hours.
Exactly. They gave you 8 hours. A lot of shit was going down. You lost track of it. Not our fault. So they go ahead and they show up, and then a fight ensues essentially, where Walker tries to get kind of tough with them, like, laying down, like, essentially kind of again, like, who I am type of thing.
It's the entitlement. It's like, I'm Captain America. I set the tone here. This is what's happening. I'm Captain America. Succeed to my authority. But these guys are like, I'm sorry, who are you? And they just wipe the floor with him.
They kick his ass bad. They whoop ass. One of the Dora Milaje goes in and kicks up the shield, kind of like Cap would and stuff like that. She's holding the shield. It was fantastic to see him get his ass handed to him by the Dora Milaje. And by the way, while that fight's going on, because like Bucky gets into it with a couple of them too, they deactivate his arm essentially, like boom, 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 and they take his arm off, and he's like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah.
And Sam asks him later,
that was
like,
cool.
"Did you know they could do that?" Yeah, and he's like, "No, I didn't." But he's able to put it back on. They weren't trying to hurt him. Yeah.
No. They just didn't want to. They didn't want him in the fight. They like Bucky, but they're allies, and they know it. They don't want to hurt Bucky. But they don't want to fight Bucky either. And they're going to do what they're going to get what they want to get. And I think it's really important character-wise to know that when U.S. agents picks the fight with the Dora Milaje, Cap and Bucky don't get into it. Not Cap and Bucky. Falcon and Bucky don't get into it until it becomes clear that these guys might get themselves killed. And so they only interfere because they don't want the Dora Milaje killing U.S. agent and Battlestar Hoskins. And I thought that was really cool because they're like, I'm not getting this. This is my fight. Let them happen. So I thought that was an interesting thing that's what brings them into the fight.
Yeah, and while this whole thing's going on, though, they cut to Zemo. He's there. He's drinking his scotch or whatever he's drinking. Again, just chilling. He could have been, again, but, he wasn't. There was no music for that. He does the equivalent to it. And he dips out the back door. Yeah, he's like, all right, I'm out of here.
Gets up. You just see him go, all right, out the door. Like, it was so, it wasn't him running or fleeing. It was because of the bathroom.
He goes to the bathroom and goes out the sewer. And that's when Sam's like, he says later on, oh, man, I can't believe Zemo pulled an El Chapo on us. which I thought was actually
That's
hilarious.
right.
That was absolutely a great line. So we see that though, but the big takeaway from this though is John Walker's expression afterwards, where he's like defeated, embarrassed, and he was even says they're not even powered. Like he starts doubting himself, like, am I really Captain America? Like, is this all bullshit now? You know. And he has a conversation with Hoskins after that, where they're talking about it. He asks Hoskins,
is that the one where someone comes up to him and asks him for the autograph?
The autograph, yeah.
Which I really wanted to touch on that before I forgot. It's a small thing. That's why I'm going to say it before you get into the meat of it. When they have that little exchange between Agent and Hoskins, and he says to Hoskins, "Are you jealous that they didn't ask you?" And he's like, "I even got a whole Battlestar like symbol I draw when I sign it." And I just thought that was such a fun little moment.
It was. That was actually pretty great. No, I was probably going to gloss over that. That was hilarious, though. When he was like excited that he had this whole thing to go together. So you start to like Hoskins a lot in this episode. We'll
did. See. I absolutely did. Yeah.
Yeah. Which kind of you want to see that could be foreshadowing as well. But though, Walker's asking him, like, would you take it? And Hoskins is like, yeah, actually I would. You know how many lives we could have saved on all those missions that we were there, that we did together? Like, we could have, and Hoskins is genuinely saying he wanted to do the right thing with it. It wasn't about power. It wasn't about feeling helpless. It wasn't about anything like that. But that's, you can see what's going on in Walker's mind at that point, where he's doing it because he feels powerless now. He's not Captain America, the unstoppable force, like the way he sees Steve Rogers as. You know, like he's almost like not living up to the mantle. And he has the chance in his mind, he has the opportunity and the chance to actually legitimize, in his mind, him being Captain America. And maybe once he legitimized it in his mind, he can make everyone else stop doubting him.
Right. And this mirrors a conversation that Zemo and Sam have, which I think we must have glossed over because Zemo's not in this episode anymore after this, where Zemo asks Sam at some point, were you ever given the opportunity? And Sam says no. And he says, would you take it if you were? And without hesitation, Sam says no. And Zemo says, that's good, no hesitation. So, you know, they're obviously, again, this is a setup of the real hero versus the manufactured hero, right? Is it the person inside or is it the powers? And so, again, I just want to point that out because there are a lot of these really cool parallels that they're starting to draw between Falcon, who is going to, like, again, if he's not Captain America by the end of this, I'm going to be really shocked. It's not even like I'm making predictions. It's just, this is where the show is telling me it's going. So the fact that they're making these these comparisons between who essentially is going to be the real replacement for Captain America as opposed to the hired replacement, it's just some really good stuff going on throughout. So I didn't want to miss that as we went along.
No, Jason, that's dynamite, because that's a huge moment. You're right. That is an enormous moment, because then Zemo's impressed by Sam. Then you could almost kind of see where he's like acknowledging Sam a lot. Like, I don't see you as, I know I wanted to take down the Avengers and everything like that, but you are legit. Like, I can see that. I'm not trying to kill you. I just want to carry out my mission. You carry out your mission. If it's so being that we help each other out a little bit, great. But he kind of like respects him a lot for that. But then we get a pretty powerful moment too, where Carly calls Sam's sister, and essentially in a very creepy, threatening way, like without saying, "Oh, I'm going to come kill you," starts saying, "Hey, essentially, I know where the dock is. I know where your whole situation is. I know where your kids are. I know everything."
The worst is the way it starts off is it really seems like a genuine call, because she's like, well, you know, she wants to know about Sam, right? And you kind of get the sense that she wants to know if she can. She says, "I want to know if I can trust Sam. He set something up. It went wrong. I want to know if I could trust him." And then she goes, "Or if I have to kill him." And that's when it turns. And then that's when she starts. She doesn't say, "I know where all this stuff is." She just starts to go, you know, "I want you to give him the coordinates in this message so he knows it's serious. Because if he doesn't come, then we can meet at your house." on the dock, and she names the kids. And what made that so menacing was the turn from how friendly she starts off in that phone conversation and it gives the impression that she's just trying to suss out if she can trust Sam, and it turns to this sinister threat. Like, so the turn was so well written, I felt.
Yeah, and then also Sam's sister though does say something pretty powerful, and she says something along the lines of like, because Carly's asking like, is Sam working with John Walker with the new Captain America? And she's like, no, like they're definitely not working together. And again, why do I care who's America's mascot? Like, America doesn't care about, like, the U.S. doesn't care about my world, being straight up, like, honest about it. Like, no pulling no punches.
Right.
Why do I care about who their mascot is? So, but I also think that that's foreshadowing how things. It's also laying the groundwork for when Sam takes over the Shield and is the current day hero. So I think that adds more power to that when that moment does come, which I still think will be like with the last 10, 15 minutes of episode 6 is what I'm guessing. I don't think we're going to get a full episode of Sam Wilson Captain America just yet. But
no. My prediction is it ends with, we'll probably see Sam with the shield and maybe a hint that he's going to go do something with it. I don't think we see him full costume as Captain America until one of the movies, because that's a movie debut thing, right? You're debuting new Captain America, real new Captain America. You want to save that for the movie. So that's kind of my prediction of it. We'll see. We'll get a hint. We'll see him with the shield. We'll know it's happening, and then we'll have to wait for whatever movie he comes into.
Yeah. So they have a whole thing to beat up. So then Carly reaches out to Sam though and is like, "Listen, come alone. I have a meeting. That's it. Like, let's meet up, but come alone." And then Bucky's like, "You're not going alone. I'm coming with you. That's it. Not negotiable." But they suit up. Like, Falcon suits up, and Bucky suits up because they know some shit can go down. So this is that. So they go to meet up with Carly. But then we also see Sharon is tracking Walker. So outside of that whole thing that's there, it cuts to Sharon, and Sharon's like, Walker's coming, blah blah blah. So of course, he busts in again, and the visual that they choose for this when Walker enters the scene, he kicks open the door. He has the shield with the gun, extremely reminiscent. If you remember the shot from Captain America: First Avenger again, where Cap is seen doing that in the World War II flashbacks. Not flashbacks at the time, but the montage that's there when he's busting up Hydra and looking for Hydra in there. So I thought, obviously not a mistake or just happened a happy coincidence. That was completely done on purpose because they're driving home that this Captain America is doing it a little bit differently. But then there's a whole fight that breaks out with Falcon, Bucky, John Walker, Battlestar, which is Hoskins. They're fighting the Flag Smashers. Boom. But then we get to see, though, when Walker hits somebody, he really hits somebody now. Flag Smashers are going flying now. He's busting through walls. Obviously saying he took the vial that he had. He took the serum. That whole conversation he had was not hypothetical.
There's even a moment where one of the Flag Smashers goes to hit him with the pipe, and he catches it and bends it, and the Flag Smasher goes, "Oh no!" and just kind of he's out. Yeah, exactly. He's like, "Listen, man, we're not that special anymore." Apparently, this dude is like really, really hyped up on this shit. So yeah, Walker's there and he's busting people up, and you kind of had a feeling, you start getting an eerie feeling this is not going to end well. But Carly, though, she's powered up. In the middle of the fight, she kicks Hoskins, who goes flying into like a pillar, and he's dead. Man,
she kills him,
and it was brutal. And what I thought was interesting is that even she looked disturbed by what she just did, kind of like she got caught up in this action, and I thought that's interesting too, because these movies are all about this fantastical action where no one gets hurt and everyone's always trading blows. But here we see this Battlestar who is a likable guy, he's a good character. Like, I am sad that he's gone. And she kicks him into that pillar, and you just see him go limp, and everyone, including the person who killed him, has this look of sort of disgust and awe and just what just happened here, And I thought that was a powerful moment.
It really was. No, you're right. And yeah, she even takes off her mask and is like, "Oh shit." And
Yeah.
then, I guess it breaks up a bit. But then John Walker sees this, and he goes up to Hoskins, and he sees his. And you could see him snapping right there. He completely loses his shit. He goes ahead. He tracks down one of the Flag Smashers outside. Bucky and Sam.
What he
watching.
does, I just want to. I want to do a step by step through what he does because I thought it was so like interesting. He's standing over and you see everyone escaping, right? And I'm thinking he's not going to let them escape, is he? And he just is where he looks up and he grabs his shield and he jumps out the window onto the car below, and he sees them running. He starts running after him, and I'm thinking to myself, "Oh, he's going to like huck that shield, and he might kill someone, but." It's going to be one of those things where he's trying to stop them and maybe he kills them and it pushes them over. But that is not what happens. He chases this guy down. And I don't know if do you want to do this scene?
No, go for it. No, Jason, go with it. Go for it.
He chases this guy down who is innocent in this. This guy, it's the long-haired guy that we got before, who was the Captain America fan, who was working with Carly. But he's also the one who was telling Carly, I don't like your methods. We are going too far. He was Carly's voice of reason, kind of like Hoskins was Agent's voice of reason. And he says to him, I didn't do it. And USA Agent just he hits him and he knocks him down and he takes the shield and he murders this guy while he's on the ground in cold blood, where he just lifts the shield and he just starts whacking him. And you see like a crowd forming and people are taking videos and Carly is even standing among the group sort of horrified at what's happening. And he lifts it up, and this is the last image of the episode. And I texted you and Tony after this. I was like, that image at the end of this episode is just beautiful, like symbolism-wise, because he stands up, and it's him dressed in his Captain America outfit with the shield, and the shield, like from like the bottom of it, like the bottom fourth, is covered in blood, and that's the last image of this. And I was just like, wow, I didn't think they were going to go this dark with US Agent. I thought he would be like an antagonist who maybe is a bit too cocky, but like at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if he becomes our main villain.
Essentially, yeah, which is saying something over Baron Zemo and the Flag Smashers and everything else that,
right.
And notice though, we've called him John Walker, U.S. Agent. We're calling him by his comic book name. We have not referred to him as the title that the U.S. government has given him. We have not called him Captain America. Yeah, we have not called him.
I will never refer to him as Captain America. Steve Rogers is Captain America, and if Sam wins me over, I'll call him Captain America once he sort of takes over. But even him, like in the comics, I call him Falcon America because I think it's cool he takes over. But it's like, for me, Steve Rogers is Captain America. But it's like, whatever. That's my personal thing with the character.
But John Walker is not fucking Captain America. That's definitely not
in no universe. When Doctor Strange sat down and looked in the multiverse, there was no multiverses where John Walker was Captain America. Let's just put it that way.
In any of the, what is it? Well, I don't know, 14 million, blah, blah, blah. That never happened.
That's it.
So, yeah, it really ended on a serious, like, dark note and just, like, a jaw-dropping moment. Like, man, the number one, the MCU went there. And they, I know that they tried to did humanize John Walker from the comics, and they kind of, like, lightened him up a little bit. But they went all in now. Like, they went all in. They kind of just put that ruse on fans, perhaps, who are not familiar with him from the comics. Now he's full John Walker, U.S. Agent, psychopath. And he's powered as well. He's got his abilities now, too. So this dude is dangerous, and I'm curious to see where this goes now because, like you said, there was a crowd there. This episode is called The World is Watching, and now this is exactly why. Camera phones are out. The secret's out. Everyone pretty much it's there, and the symbol of the symbolism of the shield with the blood on it was just, man, that really hit home, man. That was something else, man. That was fantastic. That was so well done.
I mean, you got the symbolism of the shield and the symbolism of, America's hero, because that's what they talk about. This whole thing is, Captain America is America's hero. He, Steve Rogers embodied all of the positive attributes that America as a country brings to the table, right? And so to see someone calling himself Captain America, having the shield, murdering someone in cold blood, it really says, wow, what has become of America's hero? What's become of our heroes? And it ties back into the conversation that Carly and Sam have of the heroes need to reflect the people they're protecting, right? Exactly. And John Walker obviously does not.
No, he absolutely does not. And now the world sees it and knows it. So I am really, really dying. Next Friday cannot get here fast enough to get into this next episode. Because remember now, there's only 2 episodes left, man. It's not 9 episodes like WandaVision. So we're really, I'm sure they're going to hit the ground running and full steam ahead for these last 2, man.
You think we got any Zemo left, or you think Zemo's out until they tap him for the next movie or something?
No, I think we definitely have more Zemo because he's not done. The way I see it, John Walker has to be, in his eyes, John Walker has to be taken out. And I also wonder too, to an extent. I also wonder to an extent, though, Bucky is powered too. The Flag Smashers are powered too. To me, his whole thing is they all need to be eliminated now. If you have the serum, I need to take you out. So I definitely don't. I mean, I think we're gonna get some villainism from Zemo in these last 2 episodes. And I also do wonder, right, because this is something that's also being speculated. Is there a chance he's actually the power broker? Because the power broker is, remember, the way Zemo talks about him, it's kind of like he knows him by reputation. And we don't see him, but they just allude to him. We've never seen a picture.
Here's my only problem with that is, why would Zemo as a power broker hire someone to create super soldier serum so he could go on a mad dash to destroy it? Like, that would be the only chink in that. Yeah, that chain fence there.
I'm just throwing it out there. I'm just throwing out the possibilities. I'm not saying whether I'm in or not. But it would be...
No. But I'm just thinking about it logically. But because when you said that, I was like, oh, wait a moment. But then I was like, wait, but that does kind of fall apart. But that would be cool.
If it does happen, maybe they'll have an explanation of exactly, they'll break it down exactly why, or maybe who the heck knows? They're not going to go ahead and get into that.
Whatever Marvel does, it'll be good. Come on.
Yeah, we're all in. And listen, again, hashtag and Marvel we trust. They got their bases covered, man. You got us all in. We're drinking the Kool-Aid or whatever the heck you want to call it. We're all there.
Drinking the peach tea.
We're drinking the peach tea, and we hope you are too. So I also saw though that I believe it was the writer of Falcon and Winter Soldier. He's already, now we're not trying to be led down this path again. He said in episode 5, going to get some powerful stuff. You could be crying at this. There's also supposed to be a big character coming in that's played by a known actor that has not been introduced into the MCU yet. And he also said he thinks it's a very grounded character, but someone he would like to team up with like a Thor or something like that. I wasn't really sure where he was going with that. I don't have any kind of speculation of exactly who this character might be, honestly.
Oh, no. I have no idea.
I mean,
because this isn't like WandaVision. Like WandaVision, I was like, anything could happen in WandaVision, and that's why I was like, yes, this could happen, that could, Mephisto, Mojo, everyone. But like this, I'm like, I can't think of anyone who would tonally fit into what this show is doing. That's a big character. It might be a smaller character that maybe has a fan base but like, as for like the big guys, there's no one I can think of.
No, I don't know. So I mean, if you guys got any ideas, well, I'm sure we'll be speculating it on the Facebook group this week and talking about all of that, and we'll see how wild the shit can get. With Al Pacino as Mephisto and some wild shit there. Who knows? But I guess we'll put a bow on this one on this episode of Granny's Peach Tea. Thanks for joining
Before
us.
We go, Ed,
good. I'm sorry, good.
Before we go, I think a real big question you need to answer is: would you take the super serum soldier if it was offered to you?
Oh wow, man, that's interesting. I would probably say
Didn't mean
yes.
to put you on the spot, but I figured everyone discussed it in the episode.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't. I guess we can talk about that quickly. I would have to say yes. I mean, I think I would take it. I mean, why not? If I wake up looking like Chris Evans out of nowhere too, like, yeah, cool, man. I can get behind that. Sure, why not?
I think I too would take it. I think I would take it, but I would absolutely squander the power it gave me. Like, I wouldn't become like a Captain America. I wouldn't be saving lives. I'd probably like use it to win bar bets, and maybe I'd take up sports. Maybe I'd learn some sports because I'd actually have some ability to do it. But like
I'm saying,
I would
play baseball and football, basketball, and everything.
Exactly, but so like I would do it, but I would not become a hero or a villain. I'd just be a guy who does things extraordinarily.
That's great. No, that's great. So we're both in. Yeah, I guess you can write in the comment section. Would you take the super soldier serum? And if so, what would you do with it? We'd like to hear about.
I think that's a good question.
Yeah, we like to find out. So thanks for joining us on this special Friday edition of Granny's Peach Tea. If you're catching us on another time, whether it's on Facebook or if it's on YouTube or Instagram or if it's the audio version, thanks for joining us on Spotify or Apple iTunes or wherever you get your podcast stuff. We really appreciate it. And also on Twitter. If you're joining us on Twitter, that's awesome. Thanks. Share it out. Tell your friends. Like, if they're into comic book stuff, come and check us out. But to subscribe, go to the YouTube page and subscribe to Pop Culture Pros. And then you'll find all the awesome shows that we got. Granny's Peach Tea if you're into comic book stuff. We got Just Too Sweet, which is usually on Tuesday nights. You can get Tim and Eric. They'll take you through everything that's wrestling. I know WrestleMania is this weekend, so I'm sure they're going to have a huge show covering that. You got A to Z show on Mondays with Eric. He does his solo show. He talks about everything under the sun. That would be a super entertaining show. You got the 4 Quarters show that they talk about, everything sports, basketball. They get into baseball. They get into football. They get into everything over there. If you're a Mets fan, check out the Put It in the Book show. The guys over there, Steve Faraci and Keith and Rodriguez, they cover the Mets. And I do another show covering the New York Yankees. So if you're a Yankees fan, check out the Empire 161 show. Me and Tim got that covered, and all the other awesome stuff that we got on popculturepros.com. So, Jason, any last words before we sign off?
Yep, excited for next week. Excited to see where we're going with this. And to all my super soldiers out there, have yourselves a great week.
Well said. And then next week, though, we will be back on Wednesday. We'll be in our regular Wednesday 8:30 time slot to tease that what we're going to be talking about. We'll be covering CW verse like we usually do, which Jason's excited for Batwoman to come back. So we got them coming back.
Although as Black Lightning comes back on Monday. Monday is my birthday. I'm considering that is the CW's birthday present to me is some more Black Lightning.
Well, Jason, also an early happy birthday to you, man. Happy birthday. I'll be the first one. I'll beat everyone to it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, so we got Batwoman. We got Black Lightning on Jason's birthday on Monday. We got Tuesday. They'll have Flash and Supergirl. They'll be back. And we'll have so we'll be talking about CW verse. We'll be talking about episodes 4 and 5 of Invincible because we didn't get a chance to dive into that tonight, but we will. And we will be doing a non-DCU movie in Dread. We're going to be talking about Dread. I forgot what year it came out. It was the one with Carl Urban. Fantastic film.
Yeah, it's not Judge Dredd. Sylvester Stallone and Rob Schneider are nowhere near this movie. Don't be put off because you think we're doing Judge Dredd. No, it's the good one, guys.
Yes, and if you haven't seen it, you got to check that shit out. Check out Dread. Come check us out. We'll talk about it. We'll see whether we like it or not. I know Jason and I have seen it already, but we're going to rewatch it again. Tony's going to see it for the first time, so excited to see what his thoughts are on it. And that's for our next episode. So that's episode 13 of Granny's Peach Tea. So you guys have a fantastic weekend. Enjoy yourselves. Stay safe. Watch Falcon and Winter Soldier 100 more times. And we'll see you guys next week. All right? Take it easy.